You're sitting on your couch, remote in hand, maybe flipping through something, maybe eating, maybe doing absolutely nothing, the way humans do when we have a luxury of just existing. That remote, that couch, that snack on the table, none of it should exist. And the entire reason it does, the reason you do, comes down to 30 minutes. In space, 66 million years ago. If that number shifts by half a lunch break, you, me, every human who ever lived, never happens. Here's the physics, and I promise it's the kind that will make you put your phone down. Earth moves through space at 30 kilometers every single second. Not per minute, per second. That's 108,000 kilometers per hour. Constantly. Right now, while you sit on that couch. 66 million years ago, a rock about 12 kilometers wide, taller than Mount Everest, was on a collision course with that orbital lane. And it hit, perfectly, on schedule. The shallow sea at that location was extraordinarily rich in sulfur. It was uniquely positioned to vaporize billions of tons of debris straight into the upper atmosphere. Deep ocean, the water absorbs most of the impact. Rocky desert, far less sulfur released. But a shallow, sulfur-soaked coastal shelf? That is a global nuclear winter starter kit. This asteroid had the worst aim in the entire solar system. And somehow it landed a killing blow on the single patch of ground capable of causing a catastrophe. If it had landed 300 kilometers to the east into deeper water, the sulfur cloud would never have formed at full scale. The planetary winter would have been shorter. And 66 million years later, some very large reptiles would probably still be running this world. Now, quick question. What did school teach you about dinosaurs before the impact? That they were already in decline, right? That they were slowly fading out and the asteroid just came along to finish the job. Wrong. Spectacularly wrong. The fossil record shows T-Rex and Triceratops in peak condition. Diverse populations. Multiple lineages thriving intensely. This was not a civilization on its last legs. T-Rex was having the best decade of its entire evolutionary life. And we cut that short. Everything you were ever taught, the fossil record respectfully disagrees. And while the dinosaurs were dominating the world, our ancestors were doing this. Mammals had lived alongside dinosaurs for 150 million years. 150 million years. And in all that time, they could not grow larger than a honey badger. Not because they weren't trying, but because there was no available niche for them. Dinosaurs owned the day. Mammals hid at night, stayed small, stayed quiet, stayed alive. 150 million years of being a honey badger. That is not an origin story. That is a life sentence. No, Asteroid. Our entire lineage stays underground. In the dark. Forever. The primate brain, the thing that would eventually write music and build rockets, never gets the room to develop. We are not delayed. We are erased entirely, from the very starting line. But here is what I have not told you yet. Even if the asteroid had missed, the dinosaurs were not actually safe. Something else was coming. Something slow, inevitable, and in some ways far more fascinating. Earth was cooling down regardless. Ice ages were written into the geological schedule for the Cenozoic era, the era that follows the Cretaceous. Asteroid or not, this planet was going to get colder, harsher, less hospitable, which means the dinosaurs, even in the world where the rock missed, would still have faced a new problem. Adapt to the cold, or disappear. But here is the truth about theropod dinosaurs, the two-legged predator lineage. Many had already begun growing feathers, already showing signs of warm-blooded metabolism. They had the hardware. They could adapt. And one of them was already doing something that should have been impossible for a dinosaur. Meet Truden. Small, fast, and according to paleontologists, the most unsettling creature of the Cretaceous. Binocular vision, eyes facing forward just like yours, grasping hands, and a brain-to-body ratio growing faster than any other dinosaur lineage. Truden was on a trajectory, an evolutionary highway heading toward a destination we do not yet have a word for, because we never got to see arrive. Some researchers call that theoretical destination the Dinosauroid, a bipedal creature, tool-using, with the potential for its own language. Given another 50 or 60 million years, the same span that separates us from the first primates, Truden's descendants might well have built cities and looked up at the stars. Truden had been doing the homework, quietly, across millions of years, and then a rock showed up 30 minutes early and handed the answer sheet to a honey badger hiding in the mud. The dinosaurs did not lose because they were weak. They lost because a rock arrived 30 minutes early to a meeting they did not even know existed. And in the world where that rock arrives 30 minutes late, the one sitting here watching nature documentaries is not us. It is something with scales and feathers and forward-facing eyes. Watching a documentary about what would have happened if somehow a tiny nocturnal mammal had taken over the planet. And it would think, that's absurd. There is no way the descendants of a honey badger could ever build a civilization. No chance. Right now, today, NASA runs a program called Planetary Defense. One of its missions was DART. A spacecraft deliberately crashed into an asteroid to give its orbit a gentle nudge. Here is the remarkable part. To stop a real threat, you do not need to blast the asteroid millions of miles away. You only need to shift its arrival time by a few thousandths of a second, years in advance. That tiny change compounds over time. By the time it reaches Earth, it misses completely. The same mathematics that made our existence possible, those 30 defining minutes, is now the mathematics we use to protect ourselves. So here's what I keep thinking about. Somewhere in an alternate timeline, a feathered descendant of Truden is sitting by its own kind of fire, looking up at the same stars we look at, wondering whether it is alone in this universe. And the fact that it is them and not us, or us and not them, came down to 30 minutes that no one chose. No one planned, just the universe running on its own terms. The next time you are late for an appointment, and you think those few minutes are no big deal, remember that 30 minutes once stood as the dividing line between two entirely different versions of intelligent life on this planet. Time is strange like that. Leave a comment below. Do you think a dinosaur civilization would have taken better care of this planet than we have? I genuinely want to know what you think.